And he was just here the other day in our studios, and I appreciate him joining us on our primaries. We're less than 6 months to go before the first in the nation presidential primary. And Vikram Mancharamani in our studios, of course, Rob Carson doing his national Newsmax shows out of here today and tomorrow. The governor of North Dakota, Doug, and he'll get an inside kick on that. Doug Burgum joining me. Back again, Jack Heath. Good morning, New Hampshire, the Pulse of an H, our primary primer. And you just left New Hampshire, but retail politicking matters, does it not, Governor?
Absolutely. Good morning, Jack. Great to be with you.
Well, again, you just spent some time here, and I guess the challenge for you or any of the candidates other than Donald Trump is to get to know more voters and let them get to know you, correct?
Absolutely, and New Hampshire is fantastic. The voters that come out, the citizens that are so engaged, they're so knowledgeable. Meeting people that their first sentence is, "I've met every presidential candidate in the last 30 years." You just don't get to do that anywhere else in America, and it's just fantastic, the sophistication, but also how warm everybody is. I mean, yesterday we're, in the farmhouse, sitting around the kitchen table, with a dozen people, in the backyard. A couple hours after that, with 50 people, then and then we went to Portsmouth, and you and I's friend Dan Taylor I thought he was going to have 20. He had like 120 people at an event, and it's just so, and everybody is just so on point and so concerned about the future of this country. So it's fantastic, and New Hampshire plays such an important role. I think of this like if you're trying to hire the CEO of America, then New Hampshire is basically like the screening interview that is deciding, who gets to be the final candidates for the rest of the country to choose from. And so it's just super important and fantastic. Catherine and I are loving the opportunity to get around and meet people.
And I'm going to bring in Dr. Vick in a moment because I think you're going to be on his podcast, Navigating Uncertainty. But Governor, you know what's happening this afternoon in Washington. You won't be able to watch CNN or some of the networks after tonight and tomorrow without Trump, indictment, federal court, unprecedented, historic security, barriers, indicted, Department of Justice, January 6th, breach of the Capitol, past elections. We had Mike Pence talk about this moments ago, saying he chose the Constitution over one man and did the right thing. But you know that this is going to be Trump's news cycle for better, for worse, and it may even catapult him even more in the polls. I'm not sure he's going to debate on the stage later this month, but if you're there, how do you kind of run against Donald Trump? I asked you this before, but how do you run against Donald Trump with all this noise in the room?
Well, I think we're running against Joe Biden, and this is just, again, you're talking about it. Everybody's talking about the indictments. The United States of America got downgraded. Our debt rating got downgraded. That's going to affect every American. That means we're going to be paying more for all this massive amount of debt that's been piled up, and that happens to come on a day when everybody else is in the headlines. And then what does Biden roll out yesterday, or 2 days ago now? It was a whole new set of rules about miles required efficiency in vehicles. It's basically an attack on rural America. It's an attack on pickup trucks. It's an attack on the internal combustion machine. It's an attack on the American energy industry. And they roll that out the same day as the indictments. And I just feel like the whole energy policy, the Biden administration, I think must have been written by China, because they want to somehow kill the American energy industry, and then we're all going to buy batteries from China. We're going to trade, OPEC for Sinopec. The whole thing who loves all this indictment talk? Joe Biden. He does not have to talk about his failed economic policies, his failed energy policies, and his failure on national security, as long as the nation is talking about
you and Vic, you'll get a kick out of this. Biden, the president, just said he's not going to be paying attention to the Trump arraignment. Why do I not believe that? But anyway, Dr. Vic, say hi to the governor.
Hey, Governor Burgum, nice to hear your voice again here. And I'm thrilled we've got this week your episode with me on Navigating Uncertainty. That'll get posted today, Jack, at noon. But Governor Burgum, I want to just connect a couple dots that you just raised here, right? Which is energy policy, the economy, the currency, and China. You're the only candidate I've heard connecting these dots, and I think that is absolutely insightful, and I'd love to hear you talk a little more about that.
Well, we had such a great conversation, and it was so great to be on your podcast, and so great to talk to somebody that also understands the importance of these issues. But with the sanctions that we've got on Russian oil, now China's getting oil and gas at 20% off, but worse than that, they're paying for them in the Chinese yuan. This is the first time that petrodollar exchanges around the globe, which is billions of dollars a day in transactions are not happening in the U.S. dollar. And then we know that Prigozhin and the Wagner Group wasn't just mercenary soldiers in the Ukraine. They got 65 shell companies. Well, one of them has taken over a gold mine in the Central African Republic, and they're shipping the gold back to China. Now, as you know, we've got the BRIC countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, talking about having an alternative currency backed by gold.
Yep.
So they're running a criminal organization to steal gold from Africa to attack the U.S. and then we're back here talking about internal squabbles. And this is how democracy fails, is when we forget who our real enemies are.
Yeah. So Governor Burgum, connect the dots though for the New Hampshire listeners here. What does it mean if the U.S. dollar loses its status as a global reserve currency? What does it mean if an alternative emerges? Is that inflation? I mean, you got the debt downgrade, a couple other things happening. What does this all mean for us?
Well, it means that maybe thankfully, but the idea that we can just print money and have a government that is going to spend more than it brings in, but don't worry, we'll print more money and we'll be okay, because no matter, even that's super bad, because that's like a company that's underwater and bankrupt. It's like if Biden's the CEO of America and our company we're bankrupting all Americans and burying them in debt, but somehow we can keep doing it because the rest of the world still thinks we're the most secure currency. Once we lose that status as the place where capital flows will come to buy our bonds to prop up our horrible spending habits, once we lose that, then it's game over. Yep. And then everything that everybody depends on in terms of federal government subsidies, et cetera, is all that's all off the table. I mean, it would affect people. They'd be like, "What just happened?"
Yep.
It would be devastating economically. And right now, we're stuck in this period of inflation. Everybody in New Hampshire is paying too much for their gas at the pump, and they're paying too much for their heating oil and their electricity because of Biden's energy policies. We have to expose that. But that would be the tip of the iceberg if we lose the reserve currency.
Well, the energy policy is another area that I know you've got some strong thoughts on, and as does Jack Heath here. I know he loves the fact that we're promoting solar and that we're blotting out the sun, too.
You think people in North Dakota like to be warm in the winter and cool in the summer? What a novel concept. And how much natural gas do we have in this country? More than the Middle East and Putin
We
combined?
are completely self-sufficient, other than the self-inflicted wound of saying we won't develop it. So, but I know energy independence is another one of your main ideas, Governor Burgum. So I agree with you completely. This is something we need to do. But how do we stop this climate alarmism?
Well, first of all, I'd go past energy independence and I'd go towards energy dominance. I mean, we have a chance to actually have a lever. With China importing more oil and gas per day, 10 million barrels of oil a day, we've got a lever, and we're not using it. I mean, Blinken, Kerry, Yellen, they're over there. Nobody's bringing it up because we're trying to kill the U.S. energy industry. But in permitting, you talked about all this natural gas. You can't get a natural gas pipeline permitted from Pennsylvania to New Hampshire. All of you could be using clean U.S. made natural gas. But at the time of the Russian invasion, we were offloading 400,000 barrels of oil a day equivalent into the New England area of dirty Russian heating oil. I mean, literally, the Biden energy policies are empowering dictators and destabilizing the world.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, when Kerry went to those meetings, did he fly in a private jet, Governor?
Well, if he did, we have a solution. It's called innovation, not regulation, and we can deliver carbon-free, sustainable aviation fuel coming out of the Midwest. Yeah. It's the technology's there. We're ready to do it, but good luck trying to get it done when the Biden administration is stopping you from actually, solving the problem that they claim is the problem.
All right, so Dr. Vic, you're navigating uncertainty. Your guest is Governor Doug Burgum, and of course,
that's right.
I say Doug, I emphasize. He and I will have an inside joke on that probably the rest of our lives.
Not so inside. He and I talked about that joke a little bit because actually the
never
joke
happened before. Seriously, and I wasn't trying to be like Donald Trump and have fun with his name. It's just it was so great how he pointed it out. And he took advantage of it.
Well, the truth is the name Dan came about. So actually, Dan Taylor, Taylor Group, is someone who I actually knew. I didn't
know you knew that. Managed ops and all that.
I was on the board of Managed Ops. First board I was ever on.
I was in the TV. I was in my TV days when he was an emerging, and I was telling the governor about his trying to find sunken treasure ships. He's an amazing entrepreneur, and of course he's in Portsmouth. Hey, Governor, thanks for being with us. We'll get you back again soon. Good morning, New Hampshire. The Pulse of a Nation, our primary primer. Thank you, Governor.
Jack, Dr. Vic, great to be with you always. Have a great day. Thank you.